Prime Minister Mark Carney evoked the legacy of Nelson Mandela while in South Africa for the G20 Summit, praising fellow world leaders for collaborating during global volatility. Canada walked away from the event having more trade deals in the works and promoting multilateralism despite the glaring absence of the United States. Tessa Bennett joins us in studio with a recap on this weekend's G20 Summit. Tessa?
Manisa, Carney spoke highly of a joint declaration signed by most of the leaders at the summit that touched on climate change and gender equality. But he also made a point of recognizing the decision of the Trump administration not to attend, describing it as a reminder that the center of gravity in the global economy is shifting. The Group of 20 Summit in South Africa has ended, and it seems a central theme was the idea that the world economy is shifting. Prime Minister Mark Carney remains optimistic that the world can handle economic issues without the United States being on board after the Trump administration chose to boycott the event in Johannesburg. Carney spoke of the legacy of former South African President Nelson Mandela, saying his words could guide how the world moves forward from a moment of rupture.
And amongst President Mandela's many powerful words, one reflection echoes with resonance today. He said, "We know that our destiny lies in our own hands, yet we also know that we cannot bring about our renaissance solely by our own efforts, since the problems we face are rooted in conditions beyond the power of any one nation to determine."
The host nation closed the summit with a declaration from the meeting, highlighting the world's major economic leaders' commitment to multilateral cooperation. The declaration, covering climate change mitigation and economic inequality, was adopted despite the U.S. refusing to take part.
The world's changing. The global economy is being rewired. Canada isn't retreating. In the face of change, Canada's new government is making generational investments at home and building deeper partnerships abroad.
Carney remarked the absence of U.S. President Donald Trump was a reminder that the center of gravity in the global economy is shifting, with economic power being diffused toward multiple countries. He also said his priority is to ensure Canada doesn't just endure this shift, but that the country prospers under it. Carney used much of his weekend in Johannesburg holding bilateral discussions with other world leaders. After discussions with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Carney agreed to restart negotiations for a trade deal with that country after more than a decade of turbulence between the two nations. The PM also co-launched a partnership with India and Australia on emerging technologies, which aims to have the three democracies work together to diversify supply chains and use clean energy. Additionally, Carney worked to secure a pathway to new trade and investment with the European Union and Asia.
And it's one of the beauties of the G20 and other multilateral meetings is that there are the formal and informal conversations and decisions that are taken amongst leaders. And so this is a good day for multilateralism generally.
But the Prime Minister's visit comes amid growing concerns over the country's engagement with Africa. Canadian officials announced Ottawa would be cutting back its support for the Global Fund, a major health organization that tackles infectious diseases, for the first time ever. This after cuts to foreign aid were outlined in the federal budget, something the government says is intended to align Ottawa with spending that took place before the COVID-19 pandemic. The next G20 Summit is set to be hosted by the United States at Trump's golf course in Florida, but the ceremonial handover of the presidency could not take place this time around after Trump refused to attend.